changing shit. Okay. Are we live? Yes, we are live. I hope. I feel. Someone in the chat, please confirm if we are live because StreamYard is kicking my ass.
Technology is hard. Technology is hard.
You'd think being IT support, I would have an easier time of it, but actually no. What happens is you specialize in whatever the hell you're doing. Yeah, we're live. I can see myself. Anyway, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining the live. I'm here with the lovely Emily Hanhan and Audra. Please make sure to use neutral pronouns when referring to them in the chat. I would much appreciate it if we could all be decent human beings. If someone is not going to, be a decent human being and just be rude, you're gonna get kicked out, and it's not gonna be pleasant. I woke up choosing violence today.
Every day of my life.
Exactly.
That is where I'm at.
Emily's and Audra's channels are linked down below if you don't know them yet, although that's probably impossible because I kissed their ass on their channel on this channel continuously. Go check them out. And today I wanted to invite them to talk about separate the art from the artist, which is a concept that pisses me off in certain areas of life, and I wanted to bring them in to bring a fresh perspective from someone that isn't me.
I'm over here trying to quietly sip my drink and be like, Audra, don't gulp. And then you're like,
we love your perspective though, so I'm just gonna say, like,
but then it's more helpful for people to listen to multiple points of views and multiple reasons why someone may like or may not like a concept. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Well, thank you for having us. Like, I mean, here's the thing. One of the things that I like that you really said was like, when they're dead, right? That's easy to do. Like, they're no longer here. Like, we all know that, Coco Chanel was we're going to use a rhyme, a hot seat sympathizer. And so, but like, she's dead, you know what I mean? So like, it doesn't feel like you can't buy Chanel because of what she did. Right.
Yeah.
But
as far as I know, Chanel is now owned by the Jewish family that she tried to fuck over, and the best example of karma in the fashion industry.
Yeah. So like,
that's perfection. I mean? Okay.
That kind of stuff makes sense. Like, you're like, I can separate the two things because one, she's dead. Like, she doesn't.
Yes.
She's not here. But like, I don't think you can do that when people are alive or when they are the face of their brand, sir. You just can't. I feel like, especially because I'm a huge and avid music fan, seeing all of the things that came out with Marilyn Manson and that kind of stuff, you can't separate the art from the artist. I think that this idea comes along to give us guilt-free love. And like, I just like, don't try to separate the things. Just admit you like it.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
be fine.
I honestly have more respect for people that directly go, I don't have the mental energy to care about this as well. Like, I don't want to care. Yes. I don't want to care about ethics and makeup. I just want to listen to music. Like, I have more respect for the people that outright own this decision, that say, I don't have the mental capacity to deal with this as well, than the people that try to like squirrel out of it and say, oh, separate the art from the artist. Because like, it's a term that people don't have ownership over very well. I don't think that translates right, but they don't know the full, bits and bobs of it, and they just heard it and it's cool and that's it.
It's like they haven't really fully taken a look at what does that actually mean when they say. I think it happens a lot where a catchphrase hits like mainstream and everyone just uses it and it's a way to talk about something, and I'm like, but you're not actually using it correctly. And I feel like we've had that happen a lot in the English language, where people will discover like the actual meaning of something and then they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And yes. I think there's when the person is still alive and making the art, it feels more palpable. It feels more like you can actively see them using their wealth or using their power or using their fame. Whereas it was true that part in the video where you were like, when they're dead. And I was like, oh, yeah, because while they might still have an impact in the world, I'm not actively seeing this monster getting more famous
100%.
and more like, and so it's like, I can't ignore that. Like, I just, like, whatever the Chanel family or the whatever family does with money that they have made over the last, like the story of Chanel actually is amazing now, like about the company, but it's like, whatever they're doing with it, I feel less of an impact versus seeing the Marilyn Mansons of the world continue to be famous because of what they've done.
And separate the art from the artist, to me, because obviously I didn't I just never looked deeply into things sometimes, but I always looked at it as, because artists were varying types of people or could be more interesting than their actual art. That's where I thought it like really came from. I never really looked at it, but like that was how I always viewed it, as like, yeah, artists can be very interesting. They can be very bombastic and all of this stuff, but like their art
Same.
could suck. Right. Like, so you needed to separate those two things and be like, yes, this artist is great at parties and they do this and they do that, but like their art is trash and that's okay. But like, that's because it's subjective. But so when people try to use that in terms of, I want to use, Jeffree Star's makeup, separate the art from the artist. And I'm like, well, first of all, you cannot. It is literally named after him.
Literally gives him money.
Yes.
Thank you.
Direct funnel.
Yes. It's like direct funds into his account. You are directly contributing to them. And that's the thing, is it's like, when you are directly contributing to these artists, you cannot separate the things. They are one and the same. Jaclyn Hill is Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics. I'm giving, whenever I buy money, like spend my money there, that's where I'm giving it to her.
Like, even like Jeffree Star as a YouTube presence, or any of these other YouTube people where it's like they might do cool makeup, but they've obviously shown their ass multiple times. That's still that same argument where they're like, well, I know they're terrible, but they're also really funny. And I'm like, but you watching them is giving them AdSense. It's giving them money. And then this was the other part of Mia's video, of your video, Mia, where I was like mind blown, because I was like, these are artistic materials.
Thank you.
They're not art.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Tarima says here. Oh, give me a second.
Ooh.
Bless you. I believe they're sneezing.
I'm sorry. I think I just choked.
Oh God! Your body was just like, get it out.
Yeah, no.
You're like, I'm sorry. I think I just choked. Like, you just came back and said that.
It's just one of those days.
So you nearly died on your channel, and like,
yeah, we're just sitting here like, what's going on? Bless you.
So Tarima says something interesting here. Production of makeup by a corporation person in business is not art. And someone else on my video, sorry if my voice sounds weird, I almost died. Anyway, someone said something about how makeup objects can be viewed as art if you just look at them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you must have ownership of them. When the ownership element gets into it, that's when they transform into a product, and that's when you can stop seeing them as art. And also, most of these business people, for example, Ofra's owner, he's a white rich dude in his middle age who would not give one single shit about makeup beyond the profit. It's not like he's a tortured soul that's trying to make his vision real to the world.
I'm sorry, that just made me laugh. I got an image. I'm very visual.
Same. Like, they're same with like the Tarts of the world, the Too Faced. Like, like it's different. It's just different when you're like, oh well, like, I'm separating the art from the artist, and I'm like, they're a corporation. So is
Yeah.
Jeffree Star. So is KVD. Like, all of these people are businesses.
Mhm.
And that's how they've gotten to the place of power that they did.
Yeah.
And so to try to say, well, they're just artists and I'm separating, it's like, you might think the packaging is art, but it's still material goods.
You don't need to
Yeah.
own it. You don't need to
Yeah.
own it. You can just look at it.
And most of us aren't displaying, like, even if I didn't do YouTube, right? Most of us don't have like a room where we're just displaying the packaging from our favorite makeup, just being like, hi, welcome to my house. Let me show you my makeup wall because I'm a weirdo. And like that's not how we're doing it. And it's like, I remember distinctly, it was like, because I like Nady Poplux. I like him the person, right? But I can't watch his channel. And it was because of the constant that he always says, like, it's about the makeup, not the people behind it. And my thing was always like, it can't be like that when you name the brand after yourself, and just in general, it really can't be, like, faceless corporations, okay, fine. But when you name the brand after yourself, if I name a brand, Audra Shitty Makeup, then like, when you come to look at it, like, you can't pretend that I'm not the person who made this makeup. So if I screw up, if I do something mean, if I do something hurtful or harmful, you can't pretend that, like, you can just objectively look at the makeup and not think of me because I'm indelibly tied with it. Did I just use a big word?
You did. A good word too. And I think
Mia.
I know, being in Mia's presence.
I got the smart now. Did y'all see that? I just want everybody to take
take a moment to like bask in it.
Yes, because being in Mia's presence made me intelligent.
You guys made me blush.
Love it. Yeah, and I think, like, we kind of started the stream like this, Alex, but like the idea of just admitting you're just buying from like, from that brand, because even if it's just that you want the thing, even if you're like, I hate the person, but I want the thing.
Yeah.
That's also valid. Like, no, the thing is that I think everyone gets so, especially I think in if you're a beauty lover, if you're in the YouTube space, you can get kind of tied up in how other people view your purchases. And the reality is that, like, you don't have to validate your purchases, but if you are, be honest. That's the part where I get really annoyed, because I'm like, just because even there are creators that I have stopped watching because I was like, you're still buying Jeffree Star far past the point that makes me comfortable. And rather than saying, well, people like to see these reviews, like, just, or I mean, I would almost respect that more, to be like, they get a lot of views, so I'm going to keep buying his makeup and reviewing it.
Yes.
But people that are like, but it's just so good. It's just so good. And now no one's competing with this formula. I'm like, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are
like,
so spoiled for choice. We're so spoiled for choice. It's not like in the before times when there were like a couple big makeup brands that made a handful of products.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now we're literally spoiled for choice. And I understand that choice also comes from a place of privilege, right?
Yeah.
Because you may have access to you may not have access to certain brands, or you may have access to certain brands, etc., etc., etc. But it's like, you don't, as an end consumer, so not someone that has a platform and is very visible, you don't need a lot of justifications and mental gymnastics unless you feel that you are doing something wrong and you need to justify. TikToks, holler.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
that is
that
the reason
phrase.
that people keep trying to separate the art from the artist. That's the real reason. They don't want to, and especially in America, we work very hard on like euphemism, which is very, very difficult sometimes for those of us who are neurodivergent to like even understand, like, what are you doing? Like, why are we making up all this stuff to try to get around? Like, just be honest. You don't have to make up these mental, because like the thing is, you're doing it, like you said, because you have some type of feeling about it. If you're still buying it, you have a guilt that you don't really want to talk about. And I can
100%.
understand that it's hard to like wade through that. But please, for the love of all that is good and holy, stop trying to drag other people into it by being like, well, you don't have to like the person, but like, I like this makeup and, you know, da 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 da. And you have to separate the art from the artist. And it's like, no, babes, you feel guilty, understandably so. And you're still working through it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just say you like the makeup and move on.
So two things that I want to mention, because I'm getting super inspired from the comment section.
Right, the comments are amazing.
I know.
Everyone is fired today.
Yes.
So first one, Olivia Alves says, I think that such honesty would require them to come to terms with their buying addictions, but many don't want to have that discussion, and that's 100% facts. Like, and then there's also like, the people who follow them will watch anything. I'm like, okay, you want to keep buying Jeffree Star because of the views, of the views. Just say that you can't come up with more interesting content than reviewing the makeup of a racist, and go.
Yeah.
I know I'm being mean, but like, you literally cannot do anything else for views. Like, you cannot pivot your content. And as they said, I think it's also, as the other Olivia Alves said earlier, I think it's also an element of fear of missing out. And it's like, okay, so your fear of missing out is more important than the fact that this man has used the hard, the hard N-word and being consistently terrible, misogynistic, manipulative, just completely out of left field. And I'm like, okay, fine, but at least admit it. Admit it.
And I mean, I think what Olivia, the comment you just took away, which is fine, is that like so many of these creators are on the right side of the algorithm because they're white. They're, what I would say is like generally like attractive by Eurocentric standards. All of these things, they don't need that makeup to continue building their channel. And I feel like it's such a like kind of punch in the gut to be like, well, this is the best option. And I'm like, I would rather see you honestly review Morphe, and I fucking despise Morphe. Also, I wanted to say, I don't hold judgment for anyone that's in the comments saying, like, don't judge me, but I've used it. Like, I'm not in a place to judge, like, what you bought, how you spend your money. That's not what I'm here for. So,
check it. I bought a Jaclyn Hill blush palette, y'all.
And I bought a Laura Lee eyeshadow palette.
Of all people. Of all people. I wanted it. There's no excuse other than I saw it and I was like, you know what? Listen, this commercial was good. You saw it in your makeup nonsense. I was like, commercial was good. The commercial was really good. She's very inventive. She's a very good salesperson. She's really good.
Yeah.
I might try it. It looks pretty. I like blush. I'm in a blush kick right now. So I bought it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the problem is people trying to mental gymnastic their way out of explaining why they're doing some things. Because it's like, you said, I wanted it because it was pretty and I wanted it. But then there's people that try to showcase a facade of wokeness to the world, and they're trying to be performative about it and prescriptivist about it. And then they can't harmonize that with the fact that sometimes they just want to buy some shit.
Yeah.
And then they try to like justify it and philosophize it. And I'm like, you don't need philosophy to justify every single makeup purchase. No. Just buy the shit and go and say that
the one-handed backflip that they're trying to do just to get you, because they're like, I'm so woke, and like, Jaclyn, I can't believe they did this, and like da 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 da, and then something comes out that they want, and instead of just going, I wanted it, so I bought it, they're like, well, their last few launches haven't gone bad, and like they're really trying really hard, and I think that it's time for us to give people another chance. We're nothing if we don't give people a second chance, are we? So that's why I bought this shit. Please don't cancel me.
I will sit here and be like, wow, they actually released something that's pretty to me, and I want it. Okay, I bought it. Like that's really what it is. It's like, and sometimes it's, and I think the other part of this that like about your video that's all related to what we're talking about is like, this is all mass produced shit. This
Yeah.
is not like the fact that we're comparing, like, I don't know, Picasso or Basquiat to fucking Jeffree
Exactly.
Thank
Star.
you.
Like,
To a
I'm like,
palette.
Ridiculous.
It's powder, y'all. It's colored powder.
oh
They'll be back.
goodness. Apologies.
And it's like
No
another
worries.
element is that a lot of the art created by problematic people that are like dead now is art that if you do not consume it, in the sense of if you do not know what a Picasso painting is or what
Mhm.
Christopher Columbus did, you miss out on a lot of cultural background. You
Yeah.
cannot ignore it because a lot of stuff was built upon the actions or the creations of these problematic people. For
Mhm.
example, for some artists that were a complete fucking shit show of a person, they generated entire art currents. And in that way, you can't just say, I am not going to even look at a Picasso painting.
Yeah.
Because then you miss
Yeah.
out on all of that part. You're missing out like you have a building, right? You're trying to build a building of an art knowledge without the foundation, and they're dead. Like nobody gives a shit anymore.
Yeah.
But it's comparing that with mass produced makeup. It's like
Right.
you are not missing out on absolutely anything if you don't buy that Ofra highlighter or that Jeffree Star highlighter, because they're not seminal. They're not
No.
it's not like a new things emerge from them and you can't understand the others without that one thing.
I know.
Because it gets
It's not
copied and
comparable.
reproduced. Like,
Yeah.
like even if there was
Yes.
like when something new gets released, it's not that long before it's getting resold by private label brands, which is totally fine because that's what runs this industry. Or all
Mhm.
of these different things. It's like, I even remember when in particular, like Jeffree released those giant highlighters that were like all iridescent and sparkly. And I'm like, yeah, it's an indie eyeshadow. Is it cheaper per gram to get a big, expensive highlighter than it would be to put an indie eyeshadow on my face? Sure. I already have the eyeshadow. People were
Mhm.
like losing their minds. And I'm like, I've had these for at least a year, if not more, that are doing the same effect that his stuff is doing. So you're right. It's like, even if it's a seminal moment in makeup, it doesn't mean you can't find
Yeah,
it elsewhere, because whereas
exactly.
art, it's like those movements, that's kind of like a learning, like you're learning a whole thing when you discover the first person that has created this new style.
Well, and it's also makeup keeps getting released. So it's impossible to forget the things that this person did every time they release something. Because it's not like they release
Yes.
this one thing and people are like, yep, I'm boycotting it. I don't want to buy anything from them. And then, like, that's the end. They disappear. They never release anything ever again. That's not how it works. What happens is they keep making products and they keep releasing these products. So every single time any of these problematic people release something, it brings up everything that happened prior. Like, I don't know how long it's going to be before people can talk about Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics without talking about the moldy lipstick situation. Like, I don't know when that time will
Yeah.
come, because it's not yet, because we're still doing it. Like, all of us at one point or another will in fact say something with regard, like I said something where I was just like, yeah, like, I like these blushes. I ain't gonna trust her with lipstick, but I like these blushes. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know when that slides away. And that's not the same as like someone creating a piece of
Yeah.
art. And then nothing else may ever be seen again. That may be their one piece of art that gets somewhere. They may die afterwards, as artists seem to do. And
Or they may
like,
not even get popular until they're
Yeah.
dead.
after they're
which
dead.
is
Exactly.
often, what happens. I think about that with music too, where I'm like, an album, a concert experience, even though albums are mass produced, the creation of the album like feels so much more like it is a piece of art
Yeah.
compared to so many of the things that we use to separate the art from the artist phrase for. It's like that was a whole process, a whole like, birthing situation. Yeah, and exactly. Can makeup
Yeah.
even do it as a business? It's like
Yeah.
there's a difference
No.
between art and business.
Exactly. And Stinky Eggs,
I love
amazing
that name.
username. And like the profile picture is like the cherry on top with the name.
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
they made this great point about ethical consumption of problematic items. And it's like, for certain types of art, it's much easier to do because ahoy, a pirate's life's for me. So you can still have your cake and eat it too, or you can go to the library, or you can borrow your friend's copy of, I don't know, Harry Potter or whatever, and you don't need to give people your money. With makeup and beauty items, I feel it's much harder because even if it's a reseller like TJ Maxx, like I'm not sure how it works, but I wouldn't be 100% confident that they're not getting the profits. And then buying secondhand again is a bit harder, especially in this panini, because there has to be a certain element of trust in that person's hygiene and how they store that makeup involved. So it's much harder to do that than, say, be Jack Sparrow.
Right. And because it's so difficult to really figure out like how you're supposed to handle up on it. And here's the thing, like this is one of the reasons why it's like, this is why you should hang out in smaller creator territory if you're watching YouTube, because a lot of your smaller creators are going to be able to tell you like this or this is a dupe for this. If you feel like you just needed to have this thing, here's this, it's a dupe. You can interchange these and like really be able to talk about it where it's like indie makeup and things that maybe, because a lot of the things I like are shiny and pretty, but like I'm like, be as shiny as possible. My magpie brain needs this. If it's sparkly, I'm buying it.
Same.
But it's trying to get into the mindset with makeup that you're going to separate the art from the artist to me, it's an impossible task. And it's a ridiculous task. They're tied together. They are one and the same. And when you are the face of a brand, that's different. And this is why I get upset when people try to have this conversation. Well, we need to start talking about big brands. No, the fuck we don't.
Because big brands are not presenting like artists. They're not saying, here's a piece of me in this palette.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're like, hi, Revlon is presenting you with some new shiny shit that may or may not work for you. Have a good day. Like, that's it. They're doing their corporate thing and it's fine. But when people are trying to be their brand, like, I have put my entire heart, my entire soul, and the soles of my feet are in this makeup.
This thing is a bit of my soul. Like, and I think that like goes to like my Jaclyn Hill thing. Like every time she talks about a product, she talks about like the time and the effort, and I'm just still like,
she's trying to sell us her Horcruxes.
No, you did not.
And I think Olivia actually made a good point about, like, speaking of smaller creators, anytime an artist that I like does something that doesn't go with my morals, I see it as an opportunity to discover a new artist and support them. Like, that's the other thing with makeup. There's always other brands. There's always versions of things. There's always other creators. We talked about this on Audra's channel on Thursday, like the return of Tati. And I'm like, there are so many creators out here for you, and you're going to support this person. Like that goes into this whole like
relationships.
And
absolutely bizarre.
I think
they are bizarre.
That's intertwined with the whole, like Audra was saying, when your brand is named after you, I think you get a lot more people saying separate the art from the artist.
Mm-hmm.
93 Runt makes a great point. Getting secondhand stuff in a small town or rural town is difficult. And 100%, I feel that choice is also part of privilege.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily your privilege, but like you living in a certain area or you're living in a certain country. Because, for example, in certain countries, it's much harder to buy cruelty-free. And it's like, are we going to go and harass people that can't buy cruelty-free makeup?
Facts.
Like, I got harassed by someone on Twitter because I linked the stickers that I used on the palette and they were on AliExpress. And they were like, why don't you buy from Etsy and support a small business? And I'm like, you're supporting art theft. And I'm like, first of all, the Rider-Waite tarot is out of copyright for centuries. Second of all, you do realize that not Etsy is not affordable for everyone. It
Facts.
doesn't like
No.
in most Etsy stores just kill me with the fucking shipping. And it's like sometimes the
Yeah.
shipping is the
Yeah.
amount of the product, or it's like, how do you know that I don't support small Romanian businesses in my other time? How can you make that
Exactly.
judgment because I bought a pack of stupid fucking stickers from something that is out of copyright from before I was but a sparkle in my mother's eye, and you harass me and my morals about that? What?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a level where I feel like, because I feel like it was sometime last year, and I was kind of going back and forth with somebody about like where I was showing like other options to Amazon. If that's important to you, here's some other options. Here's some of the Etsy stores that I shop at. Blah blah blah. And then somebody had made a comment just being like, "Oh well, why don't you? Or you could go and support small businesses in person." I'm like, first of all, I don't like that. Like, first of all, I don't want to. I don't like being in a lot of public spaces, and unless I know the place, I don't really like to. I don't like new things. Okay, leave me alone. So I'm like, I don't want to, but two, when 93 Rent was talking about like small towns, it's hard to get.
Yeah.
There's also like the South, which is like in Texas is a completely different animal. I don't think people understand that just because there's like several big cities in Texas, it is overrun by corporations and corporates. Like
Yeah.
you cannot, everywhere you drive in a lot of areas of the South, it is like you have your Target shopping center and you have a Walmart shopping center. And by shopping center, I'm not talking about just the Walmart or just the Target. It's like you have a Walmart, you have a Home Depot, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have like all of these little stores all together. Then you drive a couple miles down, there's a Target. Then you drive a couple miles down, there's another Walmart one. Like that, this is not an area that like thrives on small business. Capitalism has done this on
Yes.
purpose. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult for you to find small businesses. People act like, well, you just have, I'm like, so what you're telling me you want me to do is you want me to go online. You want me to research this. Then you want me to drive 75 miles so that I can get a t-shirt when I could
Exactly.
literally order it online.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that's the kind of
But
stuff.
that's the thing, is like we all have, and Alex made a point a little bit earlier that I think ties right into this, is that the other difficult part is at the base level. People, no one is on the same page of
Yeah.
what's problematic or what's
Mhm.
unethical, which by the way, ethical, okay, different conversation. What one person thinks is dishonest or not, like not worth supporting, doesn't register to other
Yeah.
people that way. So
Yeah.
like I think of like secondhand shopping, like as a fat person, that's basically not really valid, like clothing
Yeah.
shopping. Maddie Dragsbeck has a whole video about, like, vlog about shop plus size shopping as like a fat person, or plus size thrift shopping, and I was like, yes, I feel this completely. It's like that's not really valid for me. Even on
Yeah.
these apps, it's still as expensive as some of the new fast fashion stuff. Is that fast fashion stuff ethically made? No, it's not. But guess what? That doesn't exist in my brain. Just gonna say
Yeah.
it. Like, but like when it comes to what I'm willing to support versus not, it's gonna be different from Audra, from Yumia, from anyone in the chat. And it's also part of the privilege of choice, as Tarima was talking about, where like
Yeah.
depending on where you are,
Hmm.
your options can limit what you're willing to get away with, or what you're willing to let a brand get away with versus what you're not.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, there are
also
literally times I shop at Amazon specifically because I do not want to go into the Walmart. I just don't want to. I,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, like, for some of the things like electronics and things where I'm located, it's kind of a pain in the ass to go get the electronics I want. Like, if I want to go to Best Buy, it's like, all right, well, I guess get ready for a whole drive. And the thing is, the Best Buy is right by the Walmart. So if I'm going to go down all that way, then I may as well go into the Walmart, but I don't want to. And it becomes like this nightmare for myself and choices, which I know a lot of people don't get. But like for me, it becomes like this battle where it's like, well, we could just go
yeah.
into the Best Buy and get the thing. And then like, yeah, but I also need these three other things and I can go in the Walmart. I don't have the capacity for Walmart. Let's just buy it on Amazon and be done.
Yeah.
Get the one thing you need and move on. Like,
Uh,
Neurodivergency adds a layer of things, but yes, Yolanda's point is very good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like there's no set answer that's going to work for everyone, and
No.
that's not how life works. So it's
Hey,
like,
Daisy.
hey,
I
Daisy.
think, hi Daisy, welcome to the stream. I think the problem is when people try to um directly come in people's mentions
Mm-hmm.
and start berating them, because it's one thing if I make a video and I say Oprah is problematic and I don't like them for XYZ reason. I'm not going on in anyone's house or online house on their profile to tell them what to do. Where I'm sorry.
Okay.
Whereas
What
other
happened?
people I burped.
Oh my God.
I was like, we burp all the
apologize for
time.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
it
a
was
little
like,
monster. Like, have you not heard the
Whereas
burp I had that came from underneath my toes? Like, it came out of my soul, and it was terrible.
um, whereas other people have the audacity to come and waggle their fingers in other people's faces, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that is not how you do any sort of activism and any sort of change, because it doesn't lead to a productive discussion.
It does not.
For you to call people shitty people for, I don't know, buying from China or whatever, you're just pissing them off, you're just turning them off. And it's like, why do you not put that energy into doing things in real life that align with your morals? Because that
Yeah.
would do much better, and it would have a much bigger impact than you harassing someone for buying AliExpress stickers. And yes, I'm still salty about that.
Be salty.
as you should be.
Yeah.
Like Thorn said, which, by the way, hi Thorn, welcome.
Hi, Thorn.
Shaming does not work. Shame, I say this, like this is one of those like drums that I beat, like things that I will say forever. It's like, shame does nothing. Shame is
Yeah.
only a negative thing. Like there's no positive it brings to the world. So it's like there are plenty of creators, like I said, who I have stopped watching, and some of the reasons are they say things like, well, I'm separated the art from the artist. Like what Audra was saying earlier about Nady. Like, that's how I do it. I'm not going to be in your mentions being like, well, because you keep saying it's not about the brand, about the people, not about the people, it's about the makeup, or because you use this person and you support them. I'm not in their mentions. I'm not. I'm just going to unsubscribe. I'm going to stop watching. It's not my
Yes.
space
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
publicly shame and attack them.
Like the amount of people who were commenting, I think it was the Face Full of Controversy, the amount of people who, like, I don't know what's going on with my emotions lately, but it feels like I'm about to cry again. Okay, anyways, the amount of people who were in the video who had things to say were like, thank you for not making me feel bad for the stuff that I have, and thank you for not making me feel like I have to be ashamed, and thank you for talking about this in a way that didn't make me feel like you're wagging my finger. Like, that is what we need to be doing, because these people are going to keep coming back because YouTube doesn't do anything to stop them, right? And people are going to continue to watch their videos. But what I don't want to do is like keep making people feel bad for what they buy. Like you said, access is a privilege, right? Being able to have all these different choices is a privilege. So there are some people in certain areas, there are makeup deserts, damn it. Like, so,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
where like people can't necessarily, like you said, get cruelty free. They can't do this. So when you're constantly trying to like yell at somebody and be like, I can't believe I don't know who needs to hear this, but you can't support Jeffree Star and be for Black people. And I'm like, you know what, I don't want to keep saying that, because parasocial relationships are really weird and identity is very, very strange. I don't know how or why somebody's identity is wrapped up in whomever or whatever it's wrapped up in. I don't want to force people to have to unpack their identity just to be able to watch my channel. Like, I don't want you to have to.
Not everyone is in that place, and you don't necessarily even know what place they might be in for that to trigger some level of like what that could create in them, like the ripple effects kind of thing.
Yeah,
Of like,
I don't want people feeling you've already spent your money. I don't want people to feel guilty that they can't buy. It's something that really bothers me on Instagram regularly whenever like I'm looking at a new makeup release from like Maybelline or something. The incessant it's not cruelty free comments
God, yeah.
infuriate me. It actually like I
yeah.
start getting so angry that like I like my blood pressure starts rising and I have to just close the app and move on because I'm like, y'all are really not gonna stop. Like
Yeah.
and you
The,
need to. Not
the
everybody like leave people alone.
The other
Like-
thing is the amount of people who, again, kept using Jeffree Star because it was a cruelty-free indie brand that did colorful stuff, and I was like,
don't even get me started
cruelty-free
on
to
that.
who? Exactly. Like,
A lot of people, not a lot of people, actually, some people that buy cruelty free care more about animals than people,
Yeah.
and it shows. I'm not
Yeah.
saying all of them, but some of them, because there's shitty people in all walks of life.
Yeah. Oh, she left us.
it might have been.
She left us alone. I'm scared.
I know this happened before we went live, and it was Mia's cat stepped on one of
Yeah.
the keys. Did that happen again? I was like, very relatable, very relatable. Yeah, the amount of comments about not being cruelty free. Oh, exactly. I am a meat eater. I will always be one. So like, whatever. I'm not cruelty free, but also people don't know enough about what's actually happening in
Yes.
other countries that are manufacturing things. Exactly what Elizabeth is saying.
Oh hell, people don't know enough about what's happening here. That's what really irritates me.
Yeah.
Like I live in America. We have modern day sweatshops here, y'all, and like nobody cares. Like they don't care.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "It's bought from China." Ew.
God.
And I'm like,
Well,
"Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I just want you to know, like the people who ship this makeup out to you and in the U.S. They ain't getting paid well, all right, and they don't get good breaks, and they have to stand on their feet all day. They're not allowed to sit down at all unless it's during their breaks. So
thank you, Daisy. That's a very kind comment. Thank you. And yeah, I agree with Audra. Like I actually had a spat in the comments regarding China because that's a topic that I always get in arguments about because Chinese products are everywhere. The phone, the camera that we're using, the laptop. There is a tinge of xenophobia and racism, as Olivia pointed out.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you harassing people about buying Chinese makeup when sometimes that is even more available? For example, in Romania, for years and years and years, you would have like a handful of USA drugstore brands, some local brands that didn't offer much, and then people would import makeup from China in droves, and that was accessible for us. But whatever, why are you being so hard on people supporting a genocidal regime, which I'm not going to get into the politics of that because I'm not smart enough. But if you if you truly want to not support that regime, go throw your phone in the trash.
Thank you.
Literally, people are on their phone leaving these comments.
Exactly.
And I'm
like they're on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm like TikTok is.
And that's the thing is like this is why like it's important to talk about it because I feel like we've seen the xenophobia rise over the years, and I see it in these indie makeup, otherwise makeup like spaces, and I'm just like, you don't know enough about it to be talking about it.
Yes,
correct.
You just want to be hateful, and the amount of people that fall for it and like feel that way and will say things that are xenophobic and not even realize that they've fallen into that. I'm like, well, like it's made in America. And I'm like, okay.
It made in America
doesn't mean
super
anything.
loose, y'all. Super loose.
Super loose, yes.
Super loose.
Worker oppressions worker oppression happens everywhere, and of course you cannot compare the oppression in certain countries with other countries. It's not a contest. But
Exactly.
then you have to ask yourself, where do I draw the line about caring about worker oppression? Do I just care about the one in China, or in in the regions in South Asia where there's a lot of sweatshops? Or do I start caring about what happens in the USA as well with exploitation, or in Turkey, or in whatever other country? Where do I draw the line? That's why I dislike this type of finger wagging in people's faces. You
Yeah.
either, because it's like, if you want to pretend that you're a saint and that people should follow your example, you better have your hands clean. And you
Yes.
cannot
Exactly.
do that. You cannot do that in the current capitalist regime. You can yell about China all you want. And I specifically dislike people that say, oh, well, it's made in China, so it must be poor quality and it has harmful chemicals. And I'm like, you did not even Google to see that China produces most of the things that we use every day. China is an industrial powerhouse. You like,
But like, did you Google any of your other makeup though? Like that's
exactly.
the thing. Like, did you look
Yeah.
at any of your makeup to see what's in it? Because let me just little secret about the U.S. and makeup. It's not regulated, y'all. It's not really regulated here. Like they're
The things the FDA is against is behind so many other countries, but the things they let through is like, it's just,
it's not well taken care of. Like they're not really looking at everything unless something goes wrong. And then when something goes wrong, they're like, oh shit, we got to put some rules together, y'all. Things have gone bad. Like then they just start running around.
And this channel was not borderline, was straight
she was
up, because
full on
multiple
xenophobic.
multiple videos about Kaleidos and being made in China. And like, again, it's like you had, in my experience from what I saw from the one or two videos that I watched / comments I read, was they had a bad customer service experience, and thus they went on this rampage with the channel. And I'm like,
wow.
Just say you're mad at the brand and go.
It's perfectly valid to say I don't like their customer experience. Also, Rhiannon makes a great point. I order my kids' clothes and toys from AliExpress. I can't afford the whatever markup on a stuffed animal and bits of plastic, and that is so true.
Yeah.
Where do you think most of these independent boutiques and other stores get their merchandise? Because 90% of them,
China.
they get it from Alibaba
or Alibaba. That's the thing, is that like your whole thing with the tarot stickers, it would be one thing if it was like from a deck that was not out of, like, that was not copyright free, and that like they were taking from somebody else. But that's not what you did. And it's like, there are even brands right now, like little like independent makeup brands, that are getting like kind of revealed for buying like from Alibaba or whatever. That's not a bad thing. It's just how they're handling it.
It's drop shipping.
Yeah. I'm not against that by any means, but it's also like, you also have to realize that even some of the brands that you think are handcrafting everything, that are such artists, no, they're still drop shipping. They might just have a little bit more customization available.
Yeah, because like to the point of like, well, I buy my things here because it's cheaper. Like, do you know how much dog stuff I get for Bo from Amazon? Because like, listen, when I buy him toys, I'm fully aware that 99% of those toys he is going to destroy within 5 minutes of having it. I'm not going to PetSmart. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to spend $19 on this damn toy because he's going to destroy it.
Still a giant corporation, so why?
I mean, they're still getting it from the same
and
locations.
Like that's the thing. They're still getting the same shit. So I'm like, you know what? And if I can go onto Amazon and get the same toy for like $5 cheaper, then I'm going to do that, because I know how destructive he is. He is kind of a monster. And like and there's a few things that he won't destroy for whatever reason. He likes to hold on to them and snuggle them. They're his babies. He has like 3 toys that he won't do that with, but everything else, he's going to take it down. So when it comes to like people being able to buy makeup that they can afford and buy makeup that they like, trying to like get in their face and be mad at them, be like, oh, I can't believe you have Revlon. They're not cruelty free. Babes, that's what they have at my Walmart. What do you want?
Yeah.
That like
Stinky eggs coming again with the straight up facts.
Yes.
It's easy to care about oppression that doesn't happen in your own background and doesn't make you have to look at your own behavior or the structures that benefit you. This is the beef that I have a lot with Romanian woke people, because you speak so much about the political and the social struggles in America, a country that you will probably never fucking visit because it's expensive to go there. But you don't look at your own neighborhood. You don't look at your own culture. You don't look at the social and political issues in your city. You talk about America because that is relevant and that gets you clout. And you care about whatever happens there, but you clearly don't care that much if you don't look in your own backyard.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I during that whole BLM situation, people were talking about what was happening in America, but then they don't talk at all about the racial injustices that happen in our country. And I'm like, are you just going to care about what happens in America, or are you going to care about racism, period? Because you can't pick and choose. You either think racism is bad or you don't. You can't just cherry pick it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. We will cherry pick all day long in this kind of shit, and like really look. Well, it's about the art, not the artist behind it. I'm like, no, but it is about them. We can't cherry pick who we're gonna do that with, and that's the other thing, is we're very picky and choosy about which creators we will do this to, because I don't like that look. Like, and here's the thing, we're all going to be hypocrites in one way or another. That's okay. Just admit you're a hypocrite. Like, I try to admit it as much as possible. Like, yes, I'm going to be a hypocrite. We all are.
I feel like that's just part of human nature. Or at least that's my take on it. I'm a hypocrite. I'm going to be a hypocrite.
Yeah. Because like I get it, like, and I think it comes from, I think Emily and I have talked about this multiple times, like growing up, the way that your parents would do things, like if you didn't eat all of your food, and somebody would be like, oh, well, there's children in Africa starving, and at the time you'd feel guilty, but then you grew up and you're like, yeah, but what was I gonna do? Send them these fucking leftovers?
Yeah,
like that's weird. Like, was I just gonna like wrap it all up and be like, here is like a half-eaten chicken
give it to like a stork to fly across the world? Like that's what it feels like.
You think about those kinds of concepts, and it's just it's the same way when people are like, these people are out here buying all this makeup, and meanwhile they're decluttering. I'm like, two things can happen at once. I can get rid of things that I no longer need or want, and I can also buy things that I want. You don't get to dictate to me whether or not I have a shopping problem or what. Like, just say you're mad and jealous that you can't have the things and go. Like, there's no need for you to continue being a dick about it and like harassing people and getting in your little threads and forums talking shit about people and like, well, they consume so much, they buy so much stuff. I'm like, okay, but so do you probably.
Yeah. Also, I think of it like with the judging the artists. Like, there are still certain brands that I just no, we're not doing this. And then there are other brands that I have like forgiven or are giving another try. But that's my own choice. Am I sharing it on the internet because I can't shut my mouth? Yes. But it's also part of the process. Like, but it's like, that's also like, if you looked at me and were like, I don't really vibe with the fact that you are buying from this brand, that's valid. Yeah. That's your choice. I don't need you in my comment section or my ads, but you can choose to separate yourself, from following me. But I also, like, I'm not going to judge other people. I'm trying, especially not vocally.
Yes.
Like, I think judgment, that's another part of my of who I am. Like, everyone is judgy, but I am trying to relearn and like adjust like how vocal I am about it, because nobody like this is why you have friends. You can go to your friend and be like, I can't believe that. Okay. But like, I don't want to judge bodies. I don't want to judge clothing choices. And really, I don't want to judge shopping choices, generally speaking, because money choices. Like that's where it's just like, how I spend my money and how you spend your money are our own choices, and we don't need anyone else's input.
I also feel that
all of that 2020 and everything that's happened, I have consistently been trying to be a little less in people's faces because as like especially as I was unemployed, I began to like look at things and go, like I know people hate Amazon, but it's really not Amazon, it's Jeff Bezos. And like there's just as many small businesses on Amazon as there are on Etsy, which a lot of people don't know, but there really are. It's not I don't think people fully understand that like
Yeah.
Amazon has sellers, and if you pay attention to like the items that you're purchasing, it will tell you who the seller is. And people make it whatever their business name is, but there's a lot of people who small businesses, if y'all recall when everything went haywire, when everything first started, one of the big things that happened, a huge reason that they limited how much of things that you could buy was because of Amazon sellers who were trying to like buy up products. Hi, kitty. I'm a kitty cat, and I dance, and I dance. Cat. I'm a kitty cat, and I dance, and I dance.
Sorry for the intermission. You were speaking about something so serious, but the like,
it's always pet time around here. I feel like really we're always down for pet time.
Thing is that I feel that if you. So as you said, Emily, you try not to judge, right? And that's what friends are for. I also believe that if you just continue to do that all the time, like online, or you go on communities specifically for that, and you can say, oh, the creator doesn't see it, but it's okay. It's not okay because you cultivate that type of judgmental attitude and toxicity within yourself. And all of those, it's just, it's bad for your soul, or if you don't believe in souls or whatever, it's bad for your personality and for your personal development to give such amounts of shit about what other people do instead of investing that precious finite energy in the day on doing some shadow work for yourself, on doing some soul searching, on realizing why does what this person does annoy me so much? Why do I feel like does it hit my core values? Does it hit some issues that I wasn't aware I had? Because people are our reflection. They are our mirrors. If someone online pisses you off, it means that it's touching something in you. And the most productive thing to do is to curate your feed, see why that bothers you, learn about yourself as a person, and not go on guru gossip and speculate if they have a shopping addiction or not.
So this is actually something that I practice. Is that I practice this with clothing choices, in particular with women and feminine people. So the way I was raised was that, certain things are trashy or uncouth or whatever. And that's basically like if you showed your body, basically. And it took me a long time to break that thought process that no, like your moral value or your respect or whatever is not tied with how you dress, how much skin you show, what you choose to put on your body, how dirty or messy or whatever you look like. So that was the first step, was like, no, that doesn't actually connect. But then I would still have times where like I would still, so then like, even if I didn't believe that, or like I was trying to break that belief, but then I would still have like friends or people in my life that would make comments about it. And maybe I would interact with those comments. And then the next step for me was like, okay, then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to vocally say these things, but I was still having thoughts in my head. And then the final step was really like, if those thoughts started happening, being like, wait, why are you thinking this way? Because but it took steps to get there. It took steps to be like, because I was like, well, if I just have the thought in my head, but I don't say it out loud, that's okay. But I had to say, I'm Palestinian and Southern white American. So conservative a lot. I like to say, like, I was raised in North Carolina. I like half white, but I'm half Palestinian as well.
Well, I laugh because Southern white is different white.
It is. That's why I say it that way.
It's yeehaw white.
Yeah, exactly. Super judgy mom. Yes. And so those steps, that's kind of like that, where I'm like you can like have friends that you can say it to if that's a good space. But then it's like the next step is like, but don't publicly
Yes.
like don't. And so it's a process. And so same
Yeah.
thing with like guru gossiper or like just generally like shit talking, whatever it is that activates you. It's like it's a multi-step. For me, it was
Yeah.
multiple years to get to a
Same.
point where like I'm no longer like I might still have those thoughts every once in a blue moon, but it's rare compared to 5-10 years ago. And so yeah, it's like not vocalizing it can be a huge help too, to just be like, nope, we're not doing this.
And
Exactly.
like somebody had asked, this comment is way old, but somebody had said, you know, I didn't know about like Jeffree Star until somebody told me, right? And they're like, so my first instinct when people say that they're going to get it is to, you know, tell them the drama. And I would be like, you know, should I do that or should I just mind my own business? And I was like, here's the thing. If they're your friend or somebody that you know, I think I normally just tell people like, oh, I don't shop with them because there's just a lot of nastiness that don't line up with my morals. I just
Case
make it
by
like
case.
super short because if they want to like really get into it, they'll ask. That's like what I figured out. If somebody really wants to know, they'll be like, wait, what do you mean? I think it was that Emily who,
Yeah.
who said that. Yeah. So you went and found it. But like I think that, you know, there is this level where we really want to tell people these things.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And we want to tell them like all of the stuff. But I realized that I don't want to first info dump on people because people don't really enjoy that.
Yeah.
There's a
Not
level
everyone
of
is looking for that actually. I
yeah.
also
And it's just like you have to be able to feel comfortable and confident in it because I do get that like you don't like the feeling of buying something and then you find out later that like these people are sketchy and that sucks. But like that's why I feel like yearly it's just I'm going to have a face full of controversy video where I just kind of go through the things that have happened, if who's gotten better, who's gotten worse. But like we need to like realize that like here's the drama on all this bullshit, still wear your makeup.
yeah,
Still
like
wear
just
you
a
bought it.
gentle check-in of like, okay. And you know, like I know for me, I might hold those grudges or that feeling. I think for me also, I'm just one of the people where I'm like, I know there's just so many brands out there. There's so
Yeah.
many options. And yes, there are going to be times where I might shop from a brand because it's a new pretty thing or it fills something that I have been looking for when they were a brand that I wasn't super like into in the past. But it's just like it's so personal, but I think it's like being able to own the fact that like it's amorphous.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is undefined for me and it's really like feelings. And so being like but I don't want to fall back on like, well, I've separated the art from the artist and that's why I'm shopping. It's like, no, it's because I needed to soothe shop or I wanted the thing. It was shiny, it was pretty, or I'm just fucking nosy. Like that's sometimes it where I'm like
you're nosy
I'm nosy. I wanted to see how Laura Lee's colorful formulas are going to work and it looked pretty to me.
and also realize that people have varying sensitivities. Like some people have sensitive eyes. Once they find a brand that like
Yeah.
doesn't mess up their eyes or like this is
Yeah.
what because like not everybody is a beauty creator. And I like that's the thing that kills me is when people get on these
Exactly.
forums and start talking shit. I'm like, not everybody's a creator. So if you're trying to make someone feel bad, like somebody might be using this particular formula from Morphe because it doesn't mess up their eyes. They don't
Yeah.
run into any problems. And so they have to sit over
Exactly.
here silently just buying their Morphe, like trying to make sure nobody can see it. And they're like, and when people talk smack about it, they're like, yeah, Morphe sucks. And so like these are things that I don't want to do to people. I'm like, if that formula works for you, it doesn't cause issues with your sensitive eyes, then buy it. If you found a foundation that doesn't cause your skin to break out, even though it's from like Hourglass, fucking buy it. Like that's what you found that works for you. Not everybody wants to go through and try a bunch of shit to see if something else is going to work for
or
them.
has the money or ability to do
risk.
that. Because if you work and you have to like, no matter what anybody says, there are societal expectations of just how much makeup especially women, are supposed to wear to look appropriate. So for a lot of people, they need a foundation that is foolproof for them. They need a powder. They need certain things. If you know that Hourglass foundation that you had for 2 years and keep rebuying is still working for you and it's the thing, just buy it again. If it's the Estee Lauder double wear, if it's the this, if it's the that, like and you're like, I can't go through trials and tribulations. I can't afford it. I can't return makeup in my country. I can't do this. I can't do that. Then just like buy the thing and don't let it stress you out, because we all have so many stressors in our life. We don't need like makeup to be such a big one. Yeah.
And I promise you, the three of us are not going to come busting into your house like the Kool-Aid man. No. Okay. Oh yeah. I see you bought some shit you shouldn't buy. Like, it's not going to happen.
Especially since, like, as an end consumer, you have I don't like people judging end consumers all of the time. I don't like YouTubers getting super preachy about it, because individuals are not content creators and are not going to have that much of an impact as someone that has like 1 million subscribers or even 10,000 subscriber has. Why are you harassing and being so judgy about one poor person that might buy Morphe because that's what's available to them? Especially in my videos, to like always put the disclaimer that I don't care what the fuck you do in your own vanity. I'm just laying out the facts.
Yeah.
Because being judgy of people and individuals, you don't know their lives. You don't know their economical status. You don't know where they live. You don't know what's available to them, what works for them. Why would you go around and wag their fingers just so you can feel morally superior? It comes from a place of ego instead of a place of kindness.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started doing beauty YouTube, I felt so awkward, and it's cruelty free. I don't know why I'm saying this, but everybody was saying it. It's cruelty free. It's vegan. Yeah, am I supposed to be saying? Like, I felt like the whole time I was like saying this weird little script, and I finally just dropped it because I was like, I don't know, and I don't care. Like, why am I saying?
I'm like, if you want product information, it's linked in the description box. Like, that's what I feel like saying. I'm like, literally, I'm not a scientist. Like, I'm not a skincare professional. I'm not like, I'm just somebody that loves makeup.
I like makeup.
And I feel much more judgment towards creators and then brands than I do the everyday consumer.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when somebody has 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 1 million subscribers, and they're like, oh, this is so good, and it's like Jeffree Star or something, or a Jaclyn Hill lip product, and I'm just like,
it's like the people getting so angry at the people, like, look at these stupid creators and their $500 Shein hauls, asshole, like, getting so angry. And what they're not realizing is, like, first of all, Shein more likely than not told them they could spend $500.
Yeah.
They didn't actually spend $500. Like, they didn't spend $500 of their own money. That's how this partnership worked. They said you can spend $500 and get $500.
They got a $500 gift card.
Yes. Yeah. And so they used their $500 gift card and did a dedicated video to Shein. And let us be real about fast fashion and what we really need to. I think, I did a video on this. Did I? I did. It was a long time ago. Anyways,
I don't know.
Fast fashion, the reality of it is people are poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're not poor, they may be from a country with not such a strong currency. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, for someone in the US, and I may be talking shit right now, but Zara in the US is relatively cheap, right?
Zara is
like
it's not as cheap as like H&M, and then it's not as like I think of Forever 21 was the cheapest, and then H&M, and then Zara. Yeah,
Zara has weird levels because there's like Zara, then there's Zara Basic. So like there's shit that's cheap.
I also don't pay attention to it.
Super expensive straight sizes.
They don't make clothes for fat people. So
well, the thing is that Zara here is almost twice as expensive as H&M in certain things, and it's like they're both fast fashion. They're both shit quality. But for example, for someone from Romania with an average paycheck, like average, not, IT support average or whatever, like someone that does not have the privilege of a career that pays very well, A Zara dress is quite expensive. It's an investment piece. They're going to buy a Zara dress and then wear that dress for years. And it's like, why should you tell someone from Romania or from India or, I don't know, Poland or whatever other country that doesn't get paid in dollars, that doesn't get paid in euros? How dare you buy fast fashion? Why are you not buying ethical choices? Well, because the ethical choices are few and far in between. They're expensive as
They're
shit.
so expensive.
They
I was
are.
waiting for you to say that.
Expensive as shit.
That was like
And-
burp.
And not only that, but it's like, maybe they just don't fit right, because every sustainable, ethical, handmade clothing
It's a
brand in
bag.
Romania that I see, it's a bag. Or if it's not a bag, it's a fit that flatters the general body type that most Romanian women have that I do not share. So it's
Yeah.
like, why should I pay 3 times the price? Why should I pay 400, 500 RON on a dress that is not going to fit me right?
Yeah.
When I could,
Oh, go ahead.
because it's like, it's more sustainable to buy the clothes that you do afford and take good care of them and wear them as much as you can until they're, not wearable anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing that I get so angry about this. So there's a couple of comments in the chat about Abby Williamson's most recent video about fashion as a plus size person. I completely agree with the video. The thing that I've gotten so angry about for years is that I've seen fast fashion become this thing. And then I started realizing how much of the industry is fast fashion. And the way that there is like this, like, I wouldn't even say mid-range, but there's this like second tier that like gets a little bit more respect. It's still fast fashion. And so it's like,
shops.
it's like, I just recently, like a couple months ago, picked up some things from Shein. I spent money. I got the things. Some of them are good. Some of them are whatever. But I'm just like, and this is after watching for years a lot of these companies that also claim to make clothes for plus size people that I don't really trust. But I was like, I'll fucking try it. Whatever. I got bathing suits. I'm happy generally with what I got. But I'm like, why am I going to spend $50, $100, $150 on a dress? Like Eloquy is a brand that is like, it's still mass manufactured. It's still like faster fashion when I could buy it for $25 or $30, which is still like, it's not cheap, but it's like, why is it that spending that like next level of money is somehow more respectable? It's still mass manufactured. Yeah, exactly.
It's like how people think Chili's is different from McDonald's. It's not.
Exactly, Audra.
It's
such
literally
a good
example. It is fast food. You are still eating fast food. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. If you go to an actual restaurant, like a real restaurant where they want you to sit, like go to Europe to have an actual dinner, y'all. Because in America, there are very few places, few and far between, where you can find one where you're actually having an experience. And like the point is an experience. You're supposed to sit, you're supposed to eat, you're supposed to commune with everybody. Like it's supposed to be nice. They are literally getting you in and out of your Chili's within 30 minutes. The only difference is the length of time. Like that's it.
It's so weird because I heard that in the USA you guys have like, or at least in one, I saw it on Twitter, so it must be just one restaurant where they have like a timer where you have to order a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time, or else they rotate the table. And I'm like,
I would not go. Oh God, that would give me so much anxiety. Like, and this is like what you were talking about, Audra, with like being in Texas and trying to find small businesses. There are independently owned restaurants and bars and places that are making better quality food than the Chili's or the McDonald's or whatever. But sometimes they're few and far between. Sometimes they're more expensive or they're less accessible. They have shorter hours. They have different things like that. And so it's like, it's just so interesting, the classism of it all, of like what is like respectable versus what isn't, when the reality is that it's all feeding the same system.
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Audra.
No, go ahead.
There is this huge element of classism to it because you can
Mhm.
argue, for example, that the products are higher quality, that they're better make, but it doesn't help anyone if they're higher quality and better make, but the workers are still underpaid and overworked. It's still
Mhm.
fast fashion. It's still in a regime that oppresses
Mhm.
people. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but you also can't have any moral grandstanding and complain about the people that buy from H&M because you're no better. Your stitching is just better.
So
And
there's a whole ass horror movie.
ooh,
I think it might be called Stitches, to be honest.
Mhm.
And it is about like an basic like a what American Eagle or Abercrombie and Fitch type store, except it's ethical. It's all ethical, and the thing about it is, it's not, because they have these images of like people in India working happily because they're getting paid well and all of this stuff, but it's all lies, and these jeans are cursed because a young girl who wasn't even she was too young to be working there, and she died like getting
ooh,
trying to like
Oh
make
man.
something. Yeah, so now she's got these
That's actually
jeans.
an interesting movie.
yeah.
It's
I'm like, I might have to go watch this. Yeah, it is called Stitches. I just looked it up. I was
it
like,
is like the effects are terrible, but it's really good, and like that's the thing that kills me is like when people get on their high horses coming along to tell creators like, ugh, I can't believe you did a Shein haul on your channel. Ugh. And it's like, just leave it. If you don't like it, go away.
you don't have to
Just
watch
leave
it. You
them
don't have to
alone.
subscribe. You don't have to interact. Here's the thing: is I always think about. I'm like, yeah, if you're charging me $100 for a dress that costs the same to manufacture as the $25 dress, guess who's getting all the money? The
Yeah.
CEO, the
Mhm.
Yeah.
1%. So why am I going to give them more money, or maybe the marketing department? Why am I giving them my money when
No,
it's the
Emily.
same?
Emily, separate
Yeah.
the art from the artist. If the dress is pretty, separate the art from the artist. Like, this is what people don't realize. Makeup is at the point where it's not even craftsmanship anymore. It's a product
Correct.
made for mass
Exactly.
consumption with the
Correct.
same rates as fast fashion. It's just made in better labs.
Thank you.
So it's like if
Yeah.
you don't have that attitude towards sweatshop made clothes, why would you have that attitude towards makeup that okay maybe better produced like from the ethics of it, but it's like you can't separate the two that way.
Yeah. It just doesn't
You
work.
can't. It's not going to work. And I think we're hopefully reaching a stage where people can stop finger pointing and stop attacking people. And for the love
Yeah.
of all that is good and holy, stop leaving comments about shit not being cruelty free. Let it
God, yeah,
go.
I'm tired as
Yeah.
well. Because if
Yeah.
people actually care about what they buy being cruelty free, they will go and look at that themselves, right?
Mhm.
I don't like those unsolicited comments because most people aren't even up to date with the legislation. There's some people that still
Thank
Correct.
say
you.
everything in China is not cruelty free, and I'm like, actually, they're
You have to be
changing
the
the
will actually.
law.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like that
actively
whole
been changing over the last
actually.
but it has been actively
Yeah.
changing over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And so people don't keep up with it, and they're like, well, nothing has actually happened yet. And I'm
Well, actually, they're
like
still working on it.
you're
So
still not
Rome
keeping
wasn't
up
built in
with
a
the
day.
information.
Like, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like change is not going to happen because you want it to. So, like, you leaving a comment
Yeah.
every time the brand has something, like, all if there's 500 comments and 250 of them are y'all going, it's not cruelty free. You've been doing this on literally every one of their launches since the beginning of time. They
As
obviously
if
don't care.
Maybelline looks at Trendmood's comment section.
Thank you.
They don't give a shit.
And even
Like,
if they do have a social media team that looks, that information is not traveling to the
They
top
don't
of
care.
the
yeah,
like there it doesn't matter.
Because
yeah,
like Maybelline isn't even just Maybelline. Like there's so many
No.
different companies underneath. They don't give a
exactly.
shit. They're like, oh no, they're mad that our lipsticks aren't cruelty free. Because the thing is, like we keep trying to talk about, because I think Rhiannon was talking about that as well. Like it's cruelty free here, y'all. It is
Yeah.
cruelty free here. So like, if that's what you wanted in
Yes.
the US, it is cruelty free in the US.
And I mean, I get the
So like,
prerogative of people not wanting if it's not cruelty free in other countries, but let me tell you why Maybelline and other such brands do not give a shit. Because especially because they don't give a shit if the USA stops buying, because they have a huge, and I mean a humongous market in other countries. And it's
yes.
like, why would they care that you're not buying their non-cruelty free stuff when they know that in another country people can only buy Maybelline?
Yeah.
Like for years and years, as I said, in Romania, what you could buy was select Maybelline, select L'Oreal,
Mhm.
some French brands, those imported Chinese brands. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Urban Decay arrived in Romania in 2013
Oh
Wow.
in our
wow.
Sephoras. So it's like they won't give a shit, because you know what? There's whole countries of people that they have access to only that.
Yeah.
It's also like the whole China discussion. People that are like, I can't believe this brand started selling in China. I'm like, they can. They're a business, okay?
Yeah.
When
Yes.
Mac did, when NARS did, I'm like, they are not your friend. It is not your friend that has gone behind your back. They are a business that is a
Yeah.
huge population of people that they can now sell
We
to.
live in a capitalist society, whether you like
Uh-huh.
it or not. And I'm telling you right now, if you owned a business, you would think that your ethics would be like, oh, I'm not going to sell there because, wait, how much was that? I'm sorry, how much did you say?
You wanted that many
Um,
pieces?
Yeah. And it's also
so
like,
when do we start selling in China? Like it would not.
and it's
Why would you
also
give us
like,
billions of sales?
okay, just to make another joke, what, like, separate the art from the artist. The company is the artist, and the makeup is the art, and it doesn't matter if they're not cruelty free, just like it doesn't
Thank
matter
you.
if Jeffree Star is racist. See,
Yeah.
like when we
Separate
start
the
to
art from the
get
artist.
to the grains of it, to the little bits of it, you start
Yeah.
uncovering these cognitive dissonances, which I don't necessarily think that they're bad to have. We're people, we have them, but don't go grandstanding and moralizing about it. And also, since we're on the topic of China, I'm like, do Chinese people not deserve high quality makeup?
Facts.
Exactly. And
Just
like
saying.
Jeffy said, I can't believe this business made a business
Yeah,
decision.
how dare they?
Well, and it's like people don't realize like how like a lot of counterfeit market is in China, which was one
Yeah,
of the reasons, a huge reason why they continued with the testing because of that.
they're trying to take care of
So,
their people.
yes. So like if y'all don't realize how much counterfeit makeup and all of that is a problem, I'm not even saying like watch the documentary with Marlene Estelle. Like you can literally watch anything other than that. But like you can go watch multiple documentaries that will talk to you about like the counterfeit trade and how dangerous it is. It's not like buying counterfeit clothing that like you did because like when I lived in LA, there was like a whole alley, whole area where we
Yeah.
Yeah,
would go
Santee
buy.
Alley, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would just go buy all this stuff, and it was you could buy contact lenses, colored
Um,
contact lenses,
Oh,
y'all.
that freaks me out so much
Yeah, I
yeah.
more
bought
than
them.
like the makeup
Ugh.
because
And that
yeah.
is why I stopped wearing them because I had a whole nightmare about pulling off my cornea,
Yikes.
and I was like, absolutely not, I'm done. But like, it didn't actually happen. It was
No,
actually a
no, I
nightmare.
know,
But
but it's
like,
enough for my brain to do the thing.
but it's just understanding that like when you're talking about products that people are going to put on their face, sir, just get still. When you talk about products people are going to put on their face and put in their eye, around their eye, on their mouths, like this is really important that we're trying to make sure like that this is
Yeah.
not getting out there like that. And
Uh,
so they put that shit together so that when these like knockoff brands that you find on Amazon and whatnot are selling that it is not going to harm anyone at
and
all.
it's not even just a problem like just in China. Everywhere there is counterfeit makeup. Especially for like I've noticed in Europe, in Romania in particular. So what I know, I've seen it personally. Even for a long time, there was counterfeit makeup, like counterfeit naked palettes, counterfeit Anastasia Beverly Hills, because they weren't readily available here and people didn't know better. And they're still there. Like, there's still a little online shops that sell counterfeit makeup. And I have people asking
Wow.
me, is this legit? And I'm like, baby girl, no, it's a fifth of the price of the palette. There's no way there's such a good
Ooh.
sale. And it's like, you
Yeah.
cannot control it. You cannot control it because people will always try to scam others with product.
That's, and again, this shows like we think this community that we're in is like so powerful, and we do have power. We do have like, it's a big community, but there are so many people buying makeup that are not active on YouTube in any way, are not
Yeah.
active in these kind of like spaces
Yes.
where that's why these counterfeit products keep getting sold. That's why these things exist, because there's always going to be a market for people that are curious but don't know, or just don't have the privilege and monetary access to go look for other options.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And like, if you're going to be an indie brand, like if I'm going to start an indie brand and now like, I'm finally going to like be manufacturing my own eyeshadow, I don't know if you know this, but those little powders are expensive.
Yeah.
And finding the best possible deal so that you can not only can like manufacture it and get everything prepared and sent out and all of that, but also make a profit, that becomes important to you, because you can't continue to sell shiny powder if you're not making a profit.
Yeah. And you can't just like I know so many small indie brands are like, I'm going to price it this way now, but as I grow, I'll raise the prices so I have more profit. No,
you cannot do that.
You have to do it from moment one, because you cannot grow without that. And so many of these brands don't do that. And that's why we see like good brands go away, like in terms of the indie world, and bad brands. But also it's why things cost the way they do. And then it's why things get cut with other things that are not eye safe, that are not safe for your face. It's like, yeah, because you can make it look shiny, but like, it's not all the expensive materials.
Yeah, that's what cracks me up when people will talk smack about like an indie palette being expensive, but don't blink an eye at Natasha Denona or Pat McGrath or like any. And I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah. Well, even Patrick Ta releasing a $70 neutral palette. I'm like, I know he might still be technically indie, but he's a Sephora brand. Like, but
he's got investors for sure.
You got investors, and then you see an indie brand release a $70 palette, and you're like, how dare they? And I'm like, it's okay to just say you don't like the palette. Just say you don't like the palette. Or say that it's out of your price point. That's also okay, too.
Or say that you don't trust it because it's an indie brand and it may be made in someone's kitchen.
That's also fair, too.
That's also valid. Like,
yeah, you can be like, I don't like the feeling that maybe there's cat hair in this makeup. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I got you. But like, trying to have this separate the art from the artist conversation, when most of the time you're just trying to use it to support whatever problematic creator that you're insisting on
100%.
buying their makeup from, isn't the way to go. And we have to stop using this when we want to justify it. And as somebody had said before, I think it was Beth, you don't have to justify your makeup purchases to anyone. Period. I have to tell my mom that all the time. My mom will be like, just trying to justify things that she's bought, and like be like, well, the only reason I got another Keurig was because the other Keurig had this funny spell. I'm like, Mom, you could have 25 Keurigs in your house. And you don't have to justify it at all.
Exactly.
You could just like, it's fine. I would just come in and be like, you got 25 Keurigs. And she would be like, yes. And I'd be like, okay. And like that, we would just move on. Like, we're not
just like, speaking of that, I think a big problem in current capitalist society is that there has been this push by corporations to attribute your purchases to your personality, to your moral values, to your character. And this whole shtick of what you buy says something about you. And so people don't have the broadband to analyze every single decision, so they end up justifying themselves or having cognitive dissonances or whatever else. And it's like, of course you're going to end up struggling with your purchasing decisions in one way or another when companies try to drill into you that what you buy is who you are, but at the same time you should be
Yeah.
buying, because then you're missing out, and separate the art from the artist, and every product is artwork. And it's just, it's we are the product of the cultural, socio-economical environment that we're in, and no decision is made in a vacuum. It's just that I don't feel it's productive to harass people about their choices, because you never know if they have like the bandwidth to nitpick
Yeah.
at the shit
Yeah.
that they buy. Because, for example, I have the bandwidth to nitpick at the shit that I buy, but maybe someone who is a mother and has 3 kids and 2 jobs doesn't want to also care about the Maybelline lipstick being cruelty free, because that's the last thing she has on
Exactly.
the ladder of her priorities.
Even
Yeah.
for me, I think about this a lot where I like I like because makeup is something that brings me a lot of joy, so I care about it more. I do focus on my purchases there, but I still buy from Amazon. I bought from Shein. I don't like, yes, sometimes I'm all about getting my food, like getting local food, but I still buy like snack foods and fast foods. Like, makeup is just the one area that I'm really like into looking at, kind of like brand activity, shopping habits, all of that. I don't have the bandwidth to do that with every purchase of my life, and
Yeah.
I don't want to. And so I'm not going to judge somebody else who's not doing that, because like that's their choice. It's a lot of energy. And what you
Yeah.
said about the way marketing capitalism has built it so that we are what we buy, we are the brands that we wear and that we own and that we show off on Instagram and social media, like that is so much it.
Yes.
Like that is such a big part of it. And the way you worded it, I was like, oh, that's such a huge thing. It's like, it makes us kind of wrapped up in having to justify our purchases, justify our shopping. And the reality is that like what Audra was saying about not judging their mom, it's like no one should get judged for their shopping. No one should get judged for their body. No one should get judged for what they're wearing or how they're presenting. Like, we should just be able to like exist and not
And-
have to justify everything. Go ahead.
And if you disagree, that's okay. You don't have to watch them. You know, like I started realizing, I was like, you know what? If Jeffree Star's still going to be here, these people are still going to be here. I'm just not going to watch their content.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to watch anybody's content who's featuring it. Done. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's very easy for me to do. I'm kind of, and I've just started the emotional labor of constantly trying to get other people to do this, like that's too much. I realize it's just too much energy to keep putting out to be like, this is why you don't follow this person because they're evil. And then when you're like watching like the Without a Crystal Ball and the Tati thing, you see the creep show art things come out, you just kind of realize that like people aren't okay. And like, I don't
Yeah.
want to spend this kind of like that kind of energy, because that's what it starts turning into, as we can clearly see from other creators. It begins to like take over your entire life. It becomes like your raison d'etre. Like you just don't ever let
Yeah.
it go. And I don't want to spend all of my fun time on YouTube shaming and getting
100%.
angry. Oh, she got that from black folks, but like
I was gonna say, I was like, but and gatekeeping, like what Mash, what you highlighted this earlier, like capitalism sets it up so we're all gatekeeping people for like
Yeah.
not doing enough, not knowing enough, not being into the things enough, or being too far into it, or this, like all of these ways that we're set up to like, I think about it as like continuing high school into adulthood, like the toxic feelings of being bullied and being not enough and being not the cool kid or whatever. And it's like a lot of us were ready to leave that space even before we got to high school.
Yeah.
Why do we continue that into adulthood? Like, that's not, anytime I meet somebody where I'm like, wow, I feel high school energy from you, I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna be
not gonna
friends.
happen.
You
No.
can clearly see that we
Sharon,
changed it. We changed our views on that, all of that, because you can see, you know, D'Angelo was walking back his videos. I feel like the culture of just pinpointing and finger wagging, like, I feel like that has made a lot of us tired, and I think that that's also one of the reasons why the beauty community is like suffering right now view wise, because we're just, I think everybody just got super tired.
yeah. Sharon says something very on point. Capitalism is a system in which the wildly rich make all the decisions but manipulate everyone else to fight among themselves.
Yes.
And
Ooh,
that is so
yes.
true. Like, that just hits just right. Because the thing is, if we're too busy fighting about Jeffree Star makeup and Ofra makeup and moralizing each other, we're also too busy to have important conversations about it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to say such and such is problematic and this is why they're problematic. Another thing is to directly have a spat on Twitter with someone. And I actually read something that reminds me of this today on Facebook. There was an image of a parent that attacked someone online and said, "My daughter wants a binder, and it's because of you, you woke leftists." And the person, instead of getting angry, they identified what was happening. And it was actually that mother being afraid that she could not understand her daughter's struggles. And they were like, you're such a good parent for caring. And here are some resources. And then they explained how she should be accepting of her daughter binding, because or else her daughter is going to remove herself from her parents more and bind her chest with things that are not safe. And it was just such a good lesson in communication, in trying to identify the hurt or the actual issue of that person beyond the attack itself. And I think that we would benefit from more of that in the beauty community, instead of going in someone's mentions and being, "You're a shit person for buying Jeffree Star," even though you don't have a platform. Go like, "Why are you buying Jeffree Star? What do you think you're missing that you need to buy Jeffree Star," etc.
And be wary of baiting language, because like I won't allow people to bait me into a back and forth. Like, there was somebody on Twitter who was talking about like dating or something, and like in the comments some guy had said something about like men and women losing value over some stuff, and all I responded back was like, people aren't stocks, you weirdo.
Yeah, fucking
And
weird.
you know, I could clearly see where he was going. He was trying to like, well, actually man me. And he's like, well, you don't think that people have like inherent value that I'm like, yeah, no, not like that, bro. Not like that.
No.
So I just didn't even respond to him. And I won't respond to people like that, because I'm like, I'm not 41. I'm not getting into a stupid Twitter argument with like some stranger over whether or not you should talk about whether or not people like lose value when they have children. Like, gross, you know? Like, so I'm just like, yeah, we're not doing that. And so you just really have to be careful of that.
Yeah, there's people that come from a good place, or they don't know, or they're uninformed, like even with a makeup thing, right, that we mentioned earlier. And then there's people that actively want to support that person, and I feel that we need to try and identify those people and act accordingly. Like, we should not be wasting our breath and our energy with people that think Jeffree Star has a good personality. We're not going to change our minds, but we can try to change the minds of people that are open to having that conversation, that are open to going beyond, separate the art from the artist, that aren't bad faith agents, that aren't just trying to sea lion you with questions.
I know.
Sea lion is such a good.
I hate that too, because they won't stop. They just keep going. And how come? Why? And you're like, because I said so. The end.
And even if somebody is open to the conversation, that doesn't always mean it's the right time to have the conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, like not everyone can at every moment. So like if you know that somebody especially if they've recently shopped from like Jeffree Star, then you can always ask like, "Hey, are you open to hearing about like why I don't support them?" And if they say yes, you can say, "Do you want to have this conversation now or later because it might ruin your day?" Like that's the thing, is like there is literally like consent involved, and I think a lot of us just get in this like intense feeling, and there's a lot of reason to have intense feelings. There's the stuff that people that like these like the kinds of brands that bring up these intense feelings. A lot of those feelings come from like when you're like, oh, I see him, like you said, using the hard N word. It's like if Audra was like, why the fuck are you using Jeffree Star? I wouldn't be like, Audra, calm down. I'd be like, okay, there's ways to say this, and there's other, and like, I don't blame you for saying it like this, but if you want to have a conversation later with that person, maybe like whatever. But like the emotions are not invalid, but it's just that not everyone needs to know or is in a space that cares to know.
I'm not trying to like
being vegan, cruelty-free, recyclable, like all of that doesn't mean what we think that it truly means. Like recyclable, I don't even care. I know it's going to get me canceled. I don't care because most of our trash in America does not get recycled. Like a good 99% of it doesn't get recycled. It's all trashed. They don't recycle it. They don't. It's
why I don't talk about it. Like why you don't. Like why I don't talk about like, oh, it's in recycle. Like no, I'm not going to tell you it's in recyclable packaging because it's probably not going to be recycled, and it's not my forte to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's just like all of these things combined together to become. Just enjoy your makeup and be as conscious as you can be, as healthy and safe as it is for you to be as conscious as you can be. And don't feel like it is your place to like get on other people, but also don't let people do that to you, and you don't have to follow the people that you don't like. Just like, don't like, I mean, if you need the outlet of getting on Guru Gossiper and talking shit about people, like, I guess do you, but like I I think that that's not good for your spirit.
Something that I just want to make clear, because I feel that I was getting just a little bit preachy earlier. I'm not trying to like tone police anyone or be like, we should all be kind to each other, because sometimes this 100% tolerance policy may be used to enforce systems of oppression or to silence minorities or to silence actual issues. What I was trying more to say, but I couldn't because I have my head so far up my ass and I don't catch myself, is that there are occasions where you can be kind and tolerant because the person doesn't come from a bad place. And then there are occasions where it's like hands rated E for everyone.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorite phrases. Just
I love it.
It's so good. And I also think it can be a time, like I think the way Tarima said, like instead of policing others and constantly judging, we need to look inwards and question ourselves honestly. I also think that like having conversations about like certain like bad behavior, like artists that are not worth supporting for how we feel, it can be a space to have conversations about the bigger issues. Like yes, call out the specific issues, but also like this is not something I'm completely well versed in, but like I think when I think of Jeffree Star, I think of like trans misogynoir and like misogynoir, and like there are so many bigger issues. And yes, I'm not in the space to talk about this, and other people aren't. But like it can be like, hey, this is also reflective of these. It's like when I think about cruelty free or labor or all of that, it's like, no, we can take a moment to be like, oh wait, maybe look at how labor in America is not cruelty free.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like look at this other thing. And so it's not like just specifically about your shopping habits. It's like, look, if you care, these are bigger issues.
Yeah.
here's an educated voice to listen to, or here's a thing to read, or like, this is
Yeah.
something I read that helped me. Like, it's not all of our places to educate everyone, and not everyone has the energy or should be put in a place of emotional labor to do that. But it can be interesting to open up the
Mm-hmm.
conversation and be like,
Exactly.
here's something bigger that we should reflect on and maybe work on within ourselves, that helped us ignore this bad behavior. Sometimes that's it, where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to my phobias. Like, I think of like the way I have been unlearning transphobia over the last couple of
Yeah.
years. I would completely miss things, and then later on be like, and a lot of it, somebody that was in the chat earlier, Thorn, has helped. They're a friend, but like, they've also given me resources and things. And so I think sometimes that can be the help, where I'm like, oh, if I can learn more, then I can see these things before I've already spent $50 on a palette and then I'm sad about it.
Yeah, because I know we keep saying that man's name, but when it comes to Jeffree Star, instead of focusing so much on all the bad shit he's done, we really need to focus on how many times he's able to reinvent himself and how
Yeah.
he does it. And we need to
Yes.
focus on how he does that and how we can prevent it from happening. Because in not too long, there's going to be people who've never been on YouTube who come to YouTube and they see him and they have no idea, and there's like really no trace of what he did, and like
Yeah.
being able to identify these root causes and how this continues to happen. Who keeps pushing it down? Is it YouTube pushing it down in the algorithm? How much do the drama channels have to be involved in it? Like, what did they do to help clean up his image? Like, that is something I think becomes more important. We already know
Mm.
he's racist, and if somebody wants to talk about it, we can talk about it, but we need to talk about how he's able to reinvent himself, circle the wagon, and suddenly it's just magic.
And it's
And
also the thing that we need to identify what makes our community in particular allow this continuous cycle of behavior of people
Yes.
being incredibly shitty, and then we allow them back in our communities just because they're entertaining and they put colored dust on their face. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so fast, and there's like so much for me, like the fascinating psychology of it all, when we see apologies and being and like
mm-hmm.
reclaiming the crown and like all of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think there's so much that we can like really dig into that's not necessarily as uncomfortable as sometimes facing other isms within ourselves are. Not that we need to be doing those too, but
Yeah.
like, if we look at the like, how are we being manipulated? Like, how
Yeah.
is that happening over and over again?
Yeah.
Is like, there's a level of fascination I have where I'm like, I want to figure this out. This is a puzzle I want to
Yeah.
figure out.
Because there's definitely a level where the viewer is more than likely just like they have such a parasocial relationship with that person. They don't bother seeking anyone else out.
Yeah.
And we all know that because, like, I think the first part of 2020, many of us experienced a lot of growth. For a lot of us, that slowed down because all of the people who were looking for someone unproblematic, like, they just stopped looking and they went on about their business, which is fine. But we were all kind of watching the change, and then you see like the same people who were trying to run Tati off the internet at one point and we're like, get out of here, we can't stand you, you're awful, we hate you, who just turned right back around and we're like, Tati is back. So we need to like start talking about like the science of people's brains and how quickly are we just forgetting shit faster because of social media. Like, what's happening to us? All right, dude.
Again,
All right.
there's that need for self-reflection, because you're not doing anything useful if you're calling out Tati being problematic at the time, and then in 6 months you're creaming your panties over her being back.
Yeah.
It's not useful to you. It's not useful to the community. It's just useful to Tati and her bottom line.
Thank you.
Exactly. I love what Sharima said. We were so entertained. Whoa, that storm is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
We're so
I'm gonna have to go here
entertained.
soon because he's got to he's got to release the Kraken.
Whenever you guys want.
Yeah. I just love this, that we were so entertained by the Kardashians that we allowed them to
Yep.
manipulate us into thinking the way they look is standard and not totally
Mhm.
stolen from other cultures.
Yep.
Like, that is it, where it's like, what is it that makes us, yeah, exactly. Like, what is it that makes us fall into these traps? And it's
Yeah.
like, can we figure out ways to break the system rather than
All right,
attack?
hold on. Hold.
No,
On that note-
Emily, separate the art from the artist. And in this case, the artist Kim Kardashian's ass, and the artist is a surgeon.
I'm sorry. He really has to go. He's biting my hand. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I gotta go, y'all. I'm so sorry. I could
Take
be
care,
right back,
Audra.
but he really has to. Like, he is losing.
We've
his
been here for almost 2 hours. So
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's fine.
everyone go
Bye,
follow
everybody.
Audra at home on the internet.
Everyone go follow Audra and Emily, please.
Bye, y'all.
Take care,
Thank
Audra.
you.
Bye.
Let's go. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Dude.
This has been such a delight, by the
God,
way.
yeah, it's been so nice. Thank you guys so much for joining.
I love
I really
it.
appreciate it.
And I feel like we've had so many like moments in this chat where I'm like, oh, this is another chat, and this is another chat, and this is another point to make. So anytime you want to do another stream,
Of
you
course.
can just let us know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Cheers. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching. How the hell do I stop?